Who am I? My name's Rosa Dos Santos, as Claire rightly said. And I don't come from this country. I actually come from Cape Town, South Africa, which is where I was born and raised and stayed for a number of years before relocating to Cambridge City. And I was very fortunate enough after a few months of job searching, and I know how tough that can be. So I feel where you are for those of you that are struggling, because it can be very, very tough. So hopefully some of the stuff that I've learned over the years in recruitment, I'll be able to share with you. So I was very fortunate to step into recruitment in early 2007. And I've had a wonderful career. When I started my business 11 years ago, I've worked for some incredible companies around the county, and hopefully I can share some useful information. I've got two little boys. They're twins. They're 4.5 years old. So juggling has been interesting, as with many of us. And I'm a firm believer in hiring character and training skill, and a number of my clients feel like that. Of course, there are certain sort of industries and skills that you cannot do that. You have to have the qualification. But for those of you that have personality and sort of the aptitude and the desire and passion to want to do a good job, there's some fantastic organizations that are looking to hire. So what are we going to talk about today? First, I'm going to share with you what do employers want, what are they looking for, and how to get and be ready in your job search. Your CV, what does your CV look like and what should it be on there? And LinkedIn, I know social sort of presence is a bit of a sore point for a lot of people, but it's essential as part of your job search. Interviews, and what are you doing to really ace the interview and how to help you prepare with that. And then the kind of vacancies that we've got right now that are live, and some valuable resources. So what are employers looking for? And I wish I kind of understood this right at the start. And from the start of that job, sort of when they build in that job description, right until the point that you're sitting in front of them, where it's a video or face-to-face, there are three things that they're thinking about. They're looking for particular skills, a culture and business fit. Do you fit in with the organization? And will you stay with them? So do you have the skills to do this job? Do you have, are you going to fit into my team, and will you stay with us long term? Now, finding work is a full-time job. So you've got to take that time to really create that job for you and make sure that you schedule some time. So how are you going to increase your luck? By getting in front of the right people, demonstrating the fact that you're willing to work, and your desire to fit into a business. Well, there's one thing that I've thought about it. There's a lot of people that have an accountability buddy for exercise. Well, how about a work buddy, someone who's also perhaps struggling to find work and they're on the job hunt, or perhaps it's a mentor or someone that you really respect that would be willing to spend some time, maybe once a week, or every morning if it's someone else looking for work, just sort of checking in with that teammate, going, right, what's your mission today? What have you got in your diary? And the worst thing that you can do is sit in front of that computer and look all day, every day, looking for work, because it can be very soul destroying. So make sure that you've got a weekly calendar and break up activities within that week. Make sure you schedule some breaks. So whether it's, if you've had your daily walk, if you've got a trampoline, jump on the trampoline. If you've got a skipping rope, skip. Get outside, cup of coffee, cup of tea or water, and just connect with outside and then step back in. Schedule some time for follow-up. So one thing that I have noticed over the years that I've been in recruitment is that the phones don't ring. And now I'm not encouraging you to go and sort of phone every single 100 applications that you've put in for, but the ones that you think that you're a really great fit, pick up the telephone and phone up and just have a conversation. Hi, my name's Sally. I applied for the job for account manager. I'm just checking that you received my application. It's a great way to connect people. And in the old days, you used to be able to walk into the agency and, sort of build up a rapport with a recruiter, or perhaps walk into a reception and, drop something off. Now that we don't have that, use that phone, to pick up the call. And so schedule a little bit of time to do that. So online learning, so there's some fantastic online learning platforms. I've just put two of them here. Udemy, I don't know if you've heard of that. The other one is Center of Excellence. Those are really great learning platforms, and there's possibly a lot of others that you can learn a language, or you can study sort of different areas and just sort of search that. One thing to remember, there was one I was trying to actually, the first lockdown, I thought, right, I'm going to go and study something. And I thought, okay, let me purchase something. And it said, this course, digital marketing, is going to be £200, but for today you can pay £20. And I thought, okay, I'm going to just think about it. And unfortunately, the price went up the following day. If you like something, but it takes you longer than 24 hours to have a look at it, your PC remembers the cookies, whatever that means, because I had no idea what that meant. So if I spoke to a friend of mine, she said to me, hang on a second, Rosa, let me just check online on this device. So it's a really quick tip. If you've lost the function to be able to get that good deal, go and check on another device. I've put HubSpot Academy. Someone once shared this with me. It was a senior marketing executive. HubSpot have an academy. They have free online courses. If you don't know about it, it's definitely worth having a look at. It's great resources, keeping you sort of maybe current, updated. And then other people are like, Rosa, but what should I study? You know, I'd love to be X, Y, and Z. Well, my best advice is study something that you're interested in, because if you're interested in it, you're going to be able to speak about it passionately. And remember, we're creating a job for you for your week. You're going to go out and represent yourself finding work. You've got to be, you know, sort of enthusiastic when you're following up on. So you want to break up your activity so that you feel like you're achieving something and makes you happy. Social media. What does your social media say about you? If you Googled your name, like it or not, you're visible online. So unfortunately, there are, you know, so you were able to access information. And would you hire you if you were looking at your social media platform? So that's something just to bear in mind. And then there's lots of other online resources. And today you're attending one of them. So Cambridge Network, an amazing organization that's you know, sort of hosting today. And I would encourage you to have a look at some of the other events that they have online. And they do these recruitment seminars a few times a year. And it's a great way for you to connect with each other, you know, in the community, but also in your week of activity. It's a great time well spent. The Rising Network aimed predominantly at women. It's an international network to help you connect locally on a local level. And they've got the upcoming Rising Festival over International Women's Day. I've also put on something called the BBC Headroom. It's an online mindful, you know, sort of mental health toolkit that's been introduced by the BBC, and it's got things from, you know, coping with parenting to, you know, how to take time out or mixing things up. And I've inserted the HubSpot Academy, and I really encourage you to, you know, to mix up your day, your daily work, your week of search, job search. So what does social media say about you and your social presence? Well, if you don't have LinkedIn, it's something that if you're looking for work, you definitely have to have a profile. And don't panic if you don't have one yet, it's okay. There are very basic ways, and it is quite intuitive. Start with a good professional sort of portfolio, you know, sort of picture of yourself. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to pay someone to take it, just, you know, sort of headshot, not like you're going out, but, you know, that you're there smiling and happy to be there. Someone would look at you and think, yep, I'd love you as part of my team. And then start building your profile in terms of what that looks like. So complete your About Us section. You can even attach your CV onto that as a feature or as a document, so that people can access it if you're, you know, actively looking for work and, you know, you're open to finding something new. And then the biggest thing is to try and connect with people that you've worked with, that you've worked for, and try to build up your network. It is amazing. We can't go out and go and meet each other. So this is the next best thing. Connect with people that you meet here today. Although we're not meeting each other face to face, you know, there's nothing stopping you connecting with us and saying, hi, you know, really enjoyed your presentation, or saw you attended the presentation too. I thought it'd be good to connect. And then if you worked for people or with people, maybe ask for recommendations. Endorsements are a really great way of building up your credibility, particularly if employers are looking to bring on team members. And, you know, they're going to have a look online on on LinkedIn, and they notice that you've had some great recommendations on your portfolio. So that's a great way to do it. So how to represent yourself on a CV, and what should your CV look like? Well, a good introduction is really crucial. So, you know, 4 or 5 lines about who you are, what you do, to summarize yourself up and what you're looking for. And then you start from your most recent work experience, working backwards. And my advice is definitely no more than 2 pages. If it has to, you know, 2.5 maximum, and really try and avoid lots of wordy, lots of words. You know, use bullet points to illustrate sort of the doing of what you did, and perhaps some of your achievements. Now, a lot of people struggle with this, and especially if you've got a long, you know, sort of career history, you know, perhaps focus on the last 10 to 15 years. And you want to say enough to get them interested, but not too much for someone to go, nah, I don't need that. So that's really important. So use those bullet points to summarize some of your responsibilities. And then spell check. It's amazing still how many CVs we see and clients discounted because of grammatical or spelling errors. Please use that. And make sure your current contact number is on there. I can't believe how many people don't update that. And actually, when the shoe's on the other foot, when I was looking for work, it's an easy thing to mistake. So perhaps give it to a friend or someone you respect or someone in recruitment, that just to have a look at it. Does it look okay? You know, is anything else I can tweak it? And then make it relevant. So what do I mean here? If there are, and I'm going to give you an example here, there's different versions of your CV. And forgive me, I'm only using these two skill sets as examples. If you're a sales and marketing manager, you might fall into an account management role. You could be suitable for relationship management, sales and marketing, business development, and I probably missed out on loads. The thing is, you might want to keep about 5 or 6 different versions of your CV, because what happens is, let's go back to what was the employer looking for. Can they do the job? Will they fit in and will they stay? Well, A, you want to make it very easy for them to see that you could do the job by highlighting your key skills. But every time you apply, you don't want to have to go and reapply, you know, sort of go and do your CV up every time. So if you have, you know, 5 or 6 different versions, you can quickly pull them out and make them relevant. It really is worth the effort. And then making sure that you know, top paragraph really does stand out as well. Office manager. So if you're an office manager, the same thing. But I've met, I don't know about you, but I've met some office managers that are amazing at accounts, and actually 80% of what they've done is accounts. So they might be suitable for an accounts administrator or accounts manager role. But if you're applying for a job and you're going through CVs and you're an office manager, you don't really know what you're doing within that role until you actually meet and interview them. So let's go back to that theory. Enough information to get them interested, but not too much to get them to put off. I hope I'm not talking too fast and trying to articulate this, but it's it really are these small little things that can make a massive difference in your job search. So are you phone ready? So what do I mean by that? So you can see the different faces on here. So again, I'm going to revert back to what are the clients looking for? Are they going to fit in? Can they do the job, and will they stay? So that first initial telephone conversation, like, right, what are you looking for? That chat on the line, get them to want to employ you, get them to want to talk to you. I know you're frustrated, and I know it's hard, but if you're mixing up your day and your activity, you're going to be excited when that phone call comes in. Don't worry if you can't remember all the information about that job, because you might have applied for loads, but just sound positive, upbeat, and that will make a massive difference. So, and then also with that follow-up, you know, have the same sort of attitude as well to be able to do that. So when it comes to interviews, there's some do's and don'ts. So the very basics is obviously to research who they are and what they do, and really understand, so who are they? And so if you're asked that question, how would you respond to that? Make sure that you understand enough of it. Dress smart. It's amazing how many people I've interviewed over video that are still are not really dressing smart. And I know that sounds like a silly thing. It'll make you feel better. It'll make you really come across a lot better as well. I'm not talking about, you know, you have to be in a full suit with a tie, but I'm talking about that's going to give the good impression. And also from a mindset, it's going to make you feel great about yourself. And then practice. Look, video, it is what it is. And actually, the more we practice, the better you're going to get at it. So whether it's your auntie, your uncle, your granny, or somebody that you know, get in, you know, touch with them, practice this having video interviews. And ask questions and really show an interest. It's amazing how many people, the client will come back to me and say, look, Rosa, you know, interesting skill sets, but unfortunately, I'm not sure how interested they are because they didn't show any interest. So it's those, again, small things that can make a big difference. And then, of course, eye contact is key. And again, when you're practicing video, you'll learn to see where the camera is. And I know this sounds very pedantic, but it really makes such a big difference. Right. So, and then, you know, don't wing it. I know that sounds obvious, but some people do. And then don't complain about ex-employers, which is something that unfortunately does tend to happen. So preparing to ace the interviews, what are those interview questions that you can really practice? These are very typical interview questions and ones that you can keep in your toolkit. What are your strengths? Keep it to 3 and then make sure that you have evidence to back that up. What are you great at? And if you're not sure what you're great at, ask someone that you've worked with to help you with that. What is your weakness? Just choose one, not a whole list. What's your long-term vision? What do you want to achieve? And why should I hire you? You know, that be prepared for that question. Why are you a good fit for the job? And what do you know about us? And there will be lots more, but these are some good basics for you to practice and think about before you actually attend that interview. And then one of the key parts of the interview process is actually preparing some good, solid questions. And I think this is a really missed opportunity. Some people think it's impolite, but actually by preparing some questions, it shows three things. A, I'm interested in doing the job. B, I'm interested in working for the business. And C, I'm interested in staying with you for the long term. And then we go back to that first point, what are employees looking for? So throughout your thread, from when you're applying to the job to when you're having the telephone conversation, and then in your interview face-to-face, you're showing all these subliminal messages, which are really important. So about the role, like, what's the working culture like? What's that day-to-day function? What's a typical day like? And you'll be alarmed, actually. Some key questions will actually maybe highlight some things in a role that you potentially might not enjoy. Remember, it's a two-way street. So actually, if you ask what a typical day is like, and they go, well, actually, most of the day you're on the road. And perhaps, if you're in sales or business development, you'd prefer to have something that's office-based. That'll be immediately highlighted. So just something to remember. So some of the live vacancies that we have at the moment that I thought I'd share with you. Yes, the market's tough at the moment, I'm not going to lie. But suddenly in the last few weeks, we've definitely seen an increase. And I guess we are really fortunate to be in this lovely city of Cambridge and surrounding areas to be able to have some amazing organizations to work with. So have a look. If any of these roles are a good fit, please get in touch, reach out to me, connect with me on LinkedIn. I'd love to speak to you. Look, one step at a time. You can do it. Mix up your day, prepare, and practice. I really hope you found that interesting. I'd love to answer any questions if you have any. And I've got no idea in terms of my timing if I've done okay.
You have. Perfect. Well done. Yeah. We've got about 10 minutes left, Rosa, so to ask any questions. And I've just seen the other guys pop on. So if we don't have any, we can start our final session earlier. But fantastic. If you're okay for a little while, we'll just run through some of the questions.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much. Really, really helpful advice. It's really good to kind of go through again and refresh and get people thinking about their online presence and stuff and that kind of stuff as well. So, okay, let's run through some of these. So do you have any tips, Rosa, for how to present work experience when you've done a lot of relevant freelance projects concurrently?
Okay.
How do you present those on a CV, for example?
Okay, so what I would do is I'd probably put a date. So one thing I didn't mention, and apparently it's the way we read articles. So first it's the headline. So if you think of you reading the Daily Mail, it's the headline. So I'm a creative designer, I'm a freelance editor. And then I'd bunch up your contract. So from 2019 to 2021. And then under that, list who you've worked for and what you've done for them, the projects. With the dates on the right. But actually, if you put them all together, I don't know if that's helpful. Because I think breaking it up and fragmenting it, automatically it makes it look as though, so going back to the longevity that businesses are looking for. Okay, so some businesses aren't, but actually it is, they're investing, bringing people on board. So if you bunch that up together by putting the dates on the right and consolidating it, talking about that contract. So hopefully that will help.
Yeah, absolutely. And just on the subject of kind of getting your work experience and your everything else across on versions of your CV. So 5 to 6 different versions of your CV. I've heard that before lots of times, and people do have that. Some people don't choose to. They choose to just change the profile. And if they're looking for work within that one sector. But how about your LinkedIn profile? Would you change it each time you're applying for a role? Same with Twitter, etc. What are your viewpoints, Rosa?
Oh, okay. So that's a very good question. And I actually don't know, because I think it'll look a bit funny if you keep changing it. And then actually, what day do you know someone's going to look at your profile? So I would probably, and it'd be interesting to hear some of the hiring managers. My first thing would be if someone's CV has captured my interest. Okay, so let's go back to that interest. I'm going to pick up the phone and have a conversation with them. I probably wouldn't go immediately to LinkedIn to go, hang on a second, these two are different. But if I did go, and I might be talking myself around in circles, as long as they synced in sync, that's some of the responsibility. So for instance, if I'm in sales and business development, I've done account management and business development marketing, and those highlighted, I think it'll be okay. But I wouldn't probably change it. What do you think, Claire?
I would say definitely don't keep changing. Yeah. I think LinkedIn is a really good opportunity to highlight your recommendations from other people and your endorsements and things like that. And then you could keep it quite general, really just highlighting the organizations that you've worked for. So when you tailor your CV to lots of different roles, we don't mean kind of change your CV completely, but just bring to the forefront kind of if you are looking for sales, more of your account management style, your business development, etc., then at least there's that correlation. You're not kind of contradicting one against the other. So I would say keep your LinkedIn with the organizations and very general. Then your CV can be more specific to the type of roles, and the two would fit together nicely. So that would be my experience. Someone else has asked kind of more about eye contact on video, as it can be tricky. It can be, but I think it is what I probably would take from that, Rosa, when you were saying it, is I've had conversations with people in a meeting that have a monitor here, and I'm spending the whole time talking to the side of their face. So I think just be aware that your PC and laptop camera is at the top, and that you're generally making eye contact, or at least facing in the right direction.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it is, because I know I interviewed somebody whose screen was up here, so they were talking like this, but I'm, so I think just being mindful of that.
Of your adjustments.
Yeah.
So let's have a look. We've got quite a few questions coming through now. Is LinkedIn used by employers to find potential employees? I would say yes, absolutely. It's a really massive tool. I don't think it's going to replace the CV and the networking, but I think it's a very good networking tool, and definitely lots of companies I know invest in Recruiter. They have in-house talent acquisition teams that use LinkedIn as their day job all day, searching and connecting with talent. So I would say, would you agree, Rosa? Do you find that in your experience?
Yeah, definitely. And the algorithms will pick up. So if they can actually have the tools on there, like they would go to a job board. So if your CV's on Reed, CV Library, and Total Jobs, and some of these other job boards, it's they've got the same tools similar on LinkedIn at the back end. They'll go, I'm looking for someone with quality or compliance, and then it'll bring up all these keywords. So get yourself on there and make sure that those key skills are on there, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think LinkedIn, they've developed so much from when they first came on board as well. And they have developed themselves. They do all sorts now, events, groups. I mean, they're kind of very up with their technology and connections. Okay, hello, is it possible to send your CV? Yep. We'll be sharing Rosa's contact details. They are on here. They have been up on the slides as well, so we'll make sure everyone's got contact details of Rosa's if any of those jobs are of interest to you. Just a question for you, Rosa, from Camilla. Are these positions, the ones that you've mentioned, also open for international master's graduate students?
They're open to anybody as long as they're based and living in the UK, definitely.
Okie doke. Where are we? Okay, this is interesting. Have a bit of fun for the afternoon. So, Rosa, what is the best response that you've heard from an interviewee when asked, so tell me about yourself? What tips and what to avoid? So I suppose that's quite an open question.
That is. So are you trying to establish what the best way to answer that? Tell me about yourself.
Yeah, I think
okay.
So.
What's
the best tip that you've heard? Yeah. You've heard, or the best answer to that you've kind of thought, oh, okay, that's interesting. That kind of makes you find out a bit more.
It's kind of, if we step back to those things that the employer wants, it's kind of a feeling. It's not just the skills. As somebody who is going to fit into that team. So actually the best response is to kind of summarize. You don't want war and peace. You want to know, who is this person? What can they bring? So, I'm Rosa. I've been living in the UK. Sorry, can you hear my cat meowing? I don't know if anybody, sounds like a baby outside. And I think I can't remember the best answer to that. What I do remember is that actually to make it short and sweet and to kind of summarize, I've been working for this amazing organization. I've learned so much. I love these things, and in my personal time I do X, Y, and Z. Now I'm looking to join a growing organization, which is what attracted me to yours.
I would say, I mean, I worked in recruitment for many years in agency, and yeah, I think if you go into too much detail, I have had a situation where I've literally heard someone's whole life story,
Yes.
and yeah, that's difficult. I mean, it's nice to get background and it's good to get to know each other, but I think really from an interview perspective, they want to know about you as a person and in terms of your employability. So it's kind of just bringing it back to a bit of business, bit of personal, but business mainly. So
Actually, yeah.
da, da, da. If your work experience has been solely outside of the UK, how much is that valued here, and how is it confirmed by the recruiter? You're
Okay.
having lived overseas.
Yes, yeah. So I found that challenging coming over here and really looking for work, and people kind of tended to, sort of, right, you've done this X, Y, and Z, let's try and find you a job that's done exactly the same thing. So I think keep not too much information on your CV, but enough information. So making sure it looks very similar to what is the client looking for. It's very relevant, so if you've got, I don't know what your role was or what your position was, but if you can mark down the activity of what you were doing, and again trying to match it to the role. But if it is generic, I mean, I don't mind having a conversation with you if you need some help more specifically on that. But because you can do business in other countries, you can still do business here, essentially, as long as you've got good communication skills and you're willing to learn, depending on the role.
Yeah, sure. And any tips on how to translate an academic researcher CV into one for non-academic roles?
Okay, so interesting. I'd start off with a good introduction and the reasons why you're coming, 4 or 5 lines. This is what I've got, this is what I've done. Now I'm looking to do X, Y, and Z in a commercial environment. So I'm guessing it's science, perhaps, that you're coming out of, and I do believe that the transition is usually quite difficult. Well, it's a bit, it's tougher to come, going from academia into a sort of commercial space. And then I think, again, having company name on the left, the your dates on the right, your job description, and then your responsibilities, key responsibilities. I think not too many references to the academic side, really, just to sort of focus on that activity of what you've been doing. I don't know if that's helpful at all.
Yeah, I think we'd need to know a little bit more about where
Yeah.
you're coming from exactly and what type of non-academic roles you're looking for. But yeah, I'd probably say that similarly to Rosa, yeah, just have a look at maybe some of the non-academic parts of your research role and try and translate those into a commercial position. So yeah, we need a bit more background, so by all means either email myself or Rosa. I'm sure one of us will be able to give you some tips and guidance. Okay, what time is it? We have got a couple of minutes. Can you use people that you used to work with but no longer at that company as job references?
Yes,
Yeah.
I think so, definitely. Yeah. And I think that's a great way also, connect with them on LinkedIn, ask them for a recommendation. It's funny because a lot of people feel funny about doing that. I get that. But you could do the same for them. Obviously, if they weren't very good, don't say it. But I don't know how you're going to deal with that. But I think it's really important that if you've worked with somebody and for them to endorse you, if it's a reference at a formal job interview, some clients are very particular that they want to have somebody that you've reported into. So I think you just need to double check. What do you say to that, Claire?
Yeah, same. I think as long as you've got some, if you worked well together, you could have them as a personal reference. It doesn't matter if they've
Yeah.
done the job. They still know your work when you were with them. So how do we proceed if we're interested in 3 different positions in the same field? Example, cybersecurity. We need to review our CV each time? I mean, I would say no. I think what we're discussing when you've got your CV and lots of different versions is if you were going for something quite broad, so a sales role, and then looking maybe at an account management role, business development, those types of internal sales, those types of things. But I think as long as I don't know, Rosa, what do you think? I mean, I would say you just need to have your one CV and maybe just change your cover letter.
So that's an interesting, and I'm guessing it usually goes to the same person. If it goes to one place at the same organization, I think is what you're trying to ask us here. And I'd probably send one CV, maybe with a cover letter, but it depends on who's reading it. Maybe even on LinkedIn, if you've got a generic CV, if it's the same organization, I'd probably have a generic detail, and saying that you're actually you're potentially interested in all these 3 key areas.